Remember, I didn't say it, they did. Real truth.
Mr. Secretary, I watched President Bush deliver a moving speech at the United Nations in September 2003, in which he mentioned the crisis of the sex trade. The president called for the punishment of those involved in this horrible business. But at the very moment of that speech, DISGUSTED was exposed for having been involved in the buying and selling of young women and children. Mr. Secretary, is it policy of the U.S. government to reward companies that traffic in women and little girls? That's my first question. My second question, Mr. Secretary, according to the Comptroller General of the United States, there are serious financial management problems at the Pentagon, to which Mr. Cooper alluded. Fiscal year 1999, 2.3 trillion missing. Fiscal year 2000, 1.1 trillion missing. And DOD is the #1 reason why the government can't balance its checkbook. The Pentagon has claimed year after year that the reason it can't account for the money is because its computers don't communicate with each other. My second question, Mr. Secretary, is who has the contracts today to make those systems communicate with each other? How long have they had those contracts? And how much have the taxpayers paid for them? Finally, Mr. Secretary, after the last hearing, I thought that my office was promised a written response to my question regarding the 4 war games on September 11th. I have not yet received that response, but would like for you to respond to the questions that I've put to you today, and then I do expect the written response to my previous question, hopefully by the end of the week.
Thank you, Representative. First, the answer to your first question is no, absolutely not. The policy of the United States government is clear, unambiguous, and opposed to the activities that you described. The second question.
Well, how do you explain the fact that DISGUSTED and its successor companies have received and continue to receive government contracts?
I would have to go and find the facts, but there are laws and rules and regulations with respect to government contracts, and there are times that corporations do things they should not do, in which case they tend to be suspended for some period. There are times then that under the laws and the rules and regulations passed by the Congress and implemented by the executive branch, that corporations can get off of out of the penalty box, if you will, and be permitted to engage in contracts with the government. They're not generally not barred in perpetuity.
This company was never in the penalty box. If you could proceed to my second question, please.
The second question. I've forgotten what the second question was.
I think Ms. Jonas knows it.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. McKinney. I appreciate the question. I appreciate your interest in our department's financial condition, and we are working very hard on that program. I've just come back recently.
I understand that you're working hard on it, but my question was, who has the contract? How long have they had that contract? And how much money have we spent on it?
In general, we spend about $20 billion in the Department on information technology systems. The accounting systems are part of that. I can get you the exact number for the record of what we spend on our current, what we call legacy systems, and those that we're moving toward.
And who has the contract?
That would be a multitude of individuals.
Could you name some, please?
Well, I think off the top of my head, well, I would rather not. I'd rather provide that for the record.
That's not privileged information, is it?
I'm sure it's not.
Well, please. And we still have time, so please.
I would be glad to provide for the record. I don't want to talk from the top of my head and be incorrect.
On your first question, I'm advised by Dr. Chu that it was not the corporation that was engaged in the activities you characterized, but I'm told it was an employee of the corporation And it was some years ago in the Balkans that
It's my understanding that it continues to take place, and
Is that right?
Yes.
Well, if
and
you can give me information to that
I'm
effect,
sure
we
you
will.
are interested in all of the information that I have, and I'll be more than happy to provide it to you.
Good, thank you.
But I would also like to get information from you.
Okay.
For example, the information that I just requested about who has those contracts.
Let me.
Okay, so because we're living in a very fascist, communist, technocratic, neo-feudal state, I have to blank out names and the names of these entities. But what essentially happens is, you can go back and read the subtitles here, these entities receive contracts and they go into other countries in the name of our virtuous movement to help the women and children of war-torn and disaster-affected countries. And hey, it's up to you to decide and do your own research as to whether entities like this, who receive government contracts and bureaucratic contracts, are actually doing these sorts of things. It's up to you to look into. Anyway.
So, Clinton White House, Madeleine Albright start this European bombing of Serbia. There's a war. What does that mean? It means refugees.
Alright, I like falling back on Timber Sycamore. This was a CIA-led operation under the Obama administration, during which time we started the Syrian war and provided ISIS with everything they need. Under Bush, ISIS was created, and under Obama, it was carried out in the name of democracy. The U.S. taxpayer dollar funded ISIS, folks.
They go into disaster areas knowing that they can scoop people up. That's the scam. Disasters are gold mines to them. Exactly. Disasters are gold mines. Oh, we're gonna send the Red Cross to Haiti. What does that mean, really? Send the Red Cross to Haiti. What does that mean?
Okay, day 121, this is part 2 for DynCorp Harvest. There's a lot of chatter on CNN today about Trump should apologize more for not apologizing to or speaking out against anti-Semitism, and Hillary jumped on the bandwagon for that. And I, as a Jew, feel a lot worse with giving stingers and poison gas, sarin gas, to Muslim Brotherhood in 32 countries, especially one right next to Israel, to be honest with you, and giving La Raza these weapons in the United States. I know that turning over the gravestones in St. Louis and everything is reprehensible and so forth, and I agree, but if that's the case, let's talk about the stingers and the sarin gas first. So on the second one,